Hello, third grade. It's Mrs. Barber. I just wanted to share with you this week what our art project is going to be, and it is about lines and patterns and colors. So we have spent a lot of time in first and second grade talking about lines and colors, and when we repeat lines and when we repeat colors, you all know that that creates a pattern, and I wore a pretty wild pattern today, but when something repeats, you know that that's a pattern. So we are going to look at examples further in this slideshow of different patterns, and artists use patterns in different ways, and one way that they might use patterns is in a quilt. And people that make quilts often use pattern and repetition with color and shape and line to create an interesting textile or blanket or piece of fabric to look at. So it is an art form, and it's something that there are examples of further in this slideshow that you should look at for some inspiration. But I'm gonna get started with making my paper quilts and using repeating lines, shapes, and colors throughout my paper quilt. And I hope you have a fun time making it. So I sectioned my paper off into rectangles, and you can see I have big rectangles along the border, and I'm going to fill in each rectangle with a different pattern. I'm using different colors and lines and shapes to fill each rectangle of my quilt. Paper with patterns. And now all I'm going to do, I didn't want to do this while I was working in fast pace, but I'm going to add little lines so that it looks like little stitch marks in some of the areas along here with different colors. Just make it look like it was maybe sewn together a little bit. There's other ways you can do stitch marks too. You can just make them go along, like kind of like the line that you see in the middle of the road. Okay. Or like it's actually like kind of stapled together. Okay, so then the next step is going to be, you can continue to color and crayon if you want, or I'm going to use some markers to show you first, but you're just going to add color, and you can use the color wheel that's also in the slideshow to think about color relationships. Colors that are far away from each other or across from each other on the color wheel we call complementary colors, okay, because they have high contrast. Colors that are near each other, so like greens and blues and purples, or red, yellow, and green, are called analogous colors because they are close to each other or next door neighbors on the color wheel. So you are going to think about high contrast and low contrast in some of your designs. You can use markers, or if you would like, if you have any, you can use some watercolors and create a watercolor resist. Right, so I'm going to use some watercolors, and if I use yellow on purple, those two colors are not close to each other on the color wheel. So there's a high contrast, and you can see the purple really well through the yellow paint. Okay, if I were to choose an analogous color, like green is near blue on the color wheel, okay, because we're creating a wax resist here, you can still see it, but it just creates a different mood for your painting, okay? Also remember, if you don't have watercolors, you can use your markers and just kind of go over your marker with some water, or you can use old dried up markers to make your own watercolor paint by just sticking a little bit into a little bit of water. All right, so I'm gonna finish painting this and show you my finished product. So here's my finished masterpiece that I created using different patterns and color schemes. Some are complementary colors, which means they're across from each other on the color wheel. They have high contrast, and some of them are close to each other on the color wheel and are analogous color schemes. But it's interesting to look at all of the patterns and lines that I created, as well as the different colors. So I can't wait to see what you guys come up with, and I can't wait to see your masterpieces. I miss you all, and I hope you're all doing well. Bye.